guys, it's Tony from Street Church and the Inside Job, and you're watching the Inside Job podcast. Thanks for hopping on board. Week 2 of a series that we are calling Listen to the Punctuation Mark. We actually might do week 3. I'm not sure. I'll probably make a decision at the end of this 15-minute podcast. But yeah, so this is week 2 of a series called Listen to the Punctuation Mark. It all arose from a question that I was asked years ago. And the question was, what motivates me to continue to love people and to care for people and to extend myself into people's lives? How do I maintain that level of love and care for people in the middle of their messes? And how do I love and care for people in a way that's not contingent upon how they respond to it, right? That's not contingent upon how they react to my efforts to care for them. And that's not easy to, do. So I created a series called Listen to the Punctuation Mark, because I think that punctuation marks have a lot to tell us if we learn to listen to them. So week number 1, we talked about the comma, about the value of listening to the comma. And a comma is inserted into a sentence to create a pause, right? To create a pause. So we talked about a verse in the Bible. It's from John chapter 10. It's when Jesus says, I have come that they may have life, comma, and have it to the full. And I discussed how there are people who either live on one side of the comma or on the other side of the comma. People who are living on the first side of the comma are just existing. And people who are living on the other side of the comma are living this life that they were created to, that's chock full of significance, of meaning, of satisfaction, and how that can only come from Jesus, because he's the one that gives it. And so what the comma tells me is to pause and to reflect on the fact that many people I know are living on the wrong side of the comma, but they were created to live on the other side of the comma. And I'm going to do whatever I can to get them to the other side of the comma. So that helps to motivate me, right? The second thing that we're going to talk about, the second punctuation mark, is the exclamation point. This particular punctuation mark, probably I think I identify with it more than any other punctuation mark, right? I think my personality sort of resembles it, because when you think of a punctuation mark, you think of something, it's put there to provide emphasis, right? Maybe you think of words like intensity or passion, right? That's what I think of. And for me, to continue to care for people and to extend myself and to love people and to do it in a way that's not contingent upon how they respond, I need to be passionate about doing it and about people. I have to be intense about it. I have to be passionate about it. There's a Bible verse that reeks of, passion. I love it. And it ends with an exclamation point. And so I want to read the verse and listen to the exclamation point and see what it tells us and if it creates passion in us, right? So it's in Deuteronomy chapter 5, and it's God speaking, and he's talking to the nation of Israel, and he's talking through Moses, and he says this. He says it's Deuteronomy 5:29, and God says, "Oh, that their hearts would be inclined in order to fear me and keep all my commands always, so that it may go well with them and their children forever!" Exclamation point. Right out of the gates, there is a little 2-letter word that speaks volumes of the passion in God's heart for his people. He says the word "oh," and that word reeks with passion, right? It's like, oh, longing. Oh, if only their hearts would turn to me, and that they would live in a way that is right in my eyes and follow after me. That if only the light bulb would go on, that they would get it and that they would turn to me and live in a way that is right in their eyes, so that it would go well with them and their children and their children's children forever. And, I love the fact that the passion of God does not come from this narcissistic tendency inside of him for people, that he's not just full of himself, right? He's not an ego-driven person, that says, oh, I just want people to sort of sing to me and to worship me because I am narcissistic. He says, I want the light bulb to go on in their lives and them to turn to me and them to live this abundant life so that they would be the recipients of good things in their lives, so that they would be the beneficiaries, so that their kids would be the beneficiaries, so that their kids would benefit forever, right? Always out of an unselfish tendency. And that exclamation point after the word forever reeks of the intensity and the passion inside of God. And I know for me, in order to care for people in a way that's not contingent upon how they respond to how I am caring for them and how I am loving them, then I have to listen to the exclamation point. That I have to be passionate about people. I have to be passionate. That has to motivate me, right? I have to listen to the exclamation point. Very, very important. There was a man I knew who was he was in his 70s at this point. He was living inside of a boarding house, inside of a room, and he spent probably over 25 years inside of a mental prison. So he had some mental disorders and he killed somebody, and he spent years inside of a prison. So I used to go there and I did Bible studies. So I remember once I read this verse to him, and I read the words "oh," and he resonated with the words "oh" and the passion that God had for him, and it made a difference, right? So a couple years after I met him, he goes to a nursing home. He got really sick, and at the end of his life, he was in this nursing home for just a few months, and then he died. So I used to go visit him, and I remember I think the week he died, I went to go visit him, and I said, Woody, is there anything I can get for you, right? And he looked at me and he said, I never had a BLT sandwich. I said, you never had a BLT? He said, I never had a BLT. I said, okay, I'll go home and make you one. So I went home. I told my wife, Debbie, and she worked up this wonderful BLT sandwich. I mean, chock full of bacon and lettuce and tomato, dripping with mayonnaise, wrap it up in tin foil. I go see Woody and I give it to him. He grabs it. He unwraps it. He wolfs it down. Mayonnaise dripping down his cheek. He's getting it's getting all over his shirt. I mean, he just didn't say anything for like 90 seconds. He just wolfed that sucker down. And at the end of it, I said, well, on a 1 to 10 scale, how was it? He said, it was about an 8. I said, it was about an 8. You were loving this thing. I said, what would have made it a 10? He said, if you would have put a pickle on it. And we laughed, and then a few days later, he went to go be with the Lord. And I realized that would have never happened if I didn't listen to the exclamation point and allow the passion of God for people to enter into me and to be infused in me. There's such value in listening to exclamation points and allowing the longing and the passion of God to enter into our hearts and lives. So week 2 down. So I am going to do a week 3. It's going to be about the question mark. Listening to the question mark and learning and trying to find value in the question mark, right? So until then, have a great week. I'll see you guys then. Later.